I think we're going to see. Is we live? Is we live? Hello, we are live. See how the comments come in. See if we can get Lyle in here. What's up, Kentucky? Why am I not seeing? I'm not seeing chat over here. Comments. I'm gonna have to look down here, guys. You're gonna have to excuse me for some reason. I'm not seeing chat over in my StreamYards. I'm gonna have to look down here at my tablet. Kentucky, Robert, Joe Buck, Reeling and the Chillin', JT, Big C. What's going on, everybody? Let's see. This is, I don't know what I just done. Some reason I'm not seeing my chat up here on my computer. So guys, I'm gonna have to keep looking down at my tablet to get the chat. Oh, we got Twerky Murky, Mark, Robert, Sonny Parker, Tracy from Lightning Buzz, Junior Proctor. Appreciate everybody coming in tonight. We got Lyle Stokes coming in the house tonight, going to join us as a guest. There's Mr. Lyle. How you doing?
Good, James. How are you doing?
Doing great. I'm glad to see I got you in here and didn't have too much technical difficulties, which is not unusual for me.
I understand completely. We usually on stuff new, you sometimes have little issues like that, but this worked out really well.
Yeah, the only thing I'm trying to figure out why I'm not seeing my chat up here on my computer. Luckily, I brought my tablet up here and I can see it over here to the side.
Right. Yeah. I don't see it on this feed either, but I have two screens and two computers running, and I will just bring it up and read the chat off of the other one.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna have to do. I got that other computer, that old computer. I should have brought it up. It's got a bigger screen, so I could have seen it better with my blind tail.
Well, when you get to be as old as I am, you'll take all the screens you can get, and the bigger they are, the better they work.
Yeah. Well, Lyle, you probably ain't much older than my tail, so.
Well, days like today, I feel like it. Hey, guys, thanks for the welcome. Appreciate it.
Yeah, James Dockery just come in to feed. Mr. Dockery, we're gonna have to keep an eye on him. Sooner or later, we're gonna see him on the ID channel where his wife done stringing him up, ain't she?
I'm telling you, we had the pleasure of meeting James and Katie and their daughter at the Fishing for Freedom tournament in Quincy, Illinois this year. They come up when we was weighing in, and they are just super nice folks. And he does so much, and Katie too, for children and people that need stuff in the fishing world, and it's very commendable what the stuff that they do. I mean, they don't have to do it; they do it out of the goodness of their heart, like so many people that don't get recognized for all the things that they do. But
Right.
yeah, great folks, great folks.
Well, Lyle, I'm gonna start this off by saying God bless America, and God bless each and every one of you that come in here and to support both of these channels. We really appreciate coming to each and every one of you. Lyle on Monday nights and me on Wednesday nights. I know he thoroughly enjoys it. That's why he does it. And I also, Combat Carl's in here. Dieter Melhorn's in here. Team Rick Rat's in the house. Hook Catfish. We got a lot in the house tonight. Guys, I can't see how many we got. It don't poke up on my channel. So if you don't mind, throw me a number up here and let us know how many we got in here. Avid fisherman. So what you got new coming on Catfish Weekly, Lyle?
Well, we're still working on our new program. It really is a very extensive deal, and people having vacation, the holidays coming up, and hurricanes running through. It's kind of slowed some of the stuff down, but we're just right there. And I was hoping to get it done by this week, and something come up Monday night, being a holiday. I didn't have time to get it corrected, and we just we're anxious to be able to go live on YouTube and Facebook at the same time. I don't think that anybody else is doing anything like that. We had it working once before, and even though my computer was, the time I bought it, the best there was, or top grade, it wouldn't handle the program. It's just too intensive. So we actually had one built to do this with, and it's like a big gamer's computer. It's got all kinds of cool stuff in it. There's 24 core, two 24 core processors in it, and a bunch of stuff. And I don't know anything about that, but the guy that built it did, and it works. And before my other computer run at 100%, which caused it heating problems and all kinds of stuff. And that's why we had glitches when we was doing it. This and here, with 3 people or 4 people on it at the same time, it only runs at 25%. So it's a huge upgrade in the computer part of it. So we're really excited about that. And one of the other things that I'd like to mention, if you don't mind, is this year at Mississippi River Monsters, I'm not going to be fishing that event. I will be emceeing it and helping Eddie White do the 2-day pre-fishing tournament that they're having down there for people that's pre-fishing. We'll be weighing the fish and interviewing the people that bring in fish, and then I'll be the MC on the stage during the weigh-in for MRM and helping them with the captain's meeting. So I'm excited about that. That should be a great event. They got over 100 boats entered now, and I think that by the time it's all said and done, they should have 150 boats or close to it.
Well, good. Yeah, the group down here where we live, Southeastern's got a tournament this coming weekend, and I think it's probably going to be the largest that they've ever had. They predicting probably close to 100 boats.
That's awesome, man. That's really great. I love to see these anglers come out and support these tournament groups, because it's so important to keep our sport growing. Really need to do that. And I know at some point, and it needs to be done sooner than later, we need an organization that puts all of the rules and regulations that tournaments have. It all needs to be done, and all these tournament directors need to join up and make this a nationwide thing, sort of like BASS or Crappie Masters or something like that. Of course, it'd have to be modified because there's difference between crappie and bass fishermen and cat fishermen, but a standard set of rules. That way you can fish a Cabela's tournament one weekend and be good on rules there, or you could fish a Twisted Cat on the next weekend, or Winter Blues, or whatever the case may be. The rules package would be basically the same, and you won't be able to make it hard in stone, but it just would make it so much easier for the guys participating.
Right. I want to call out a few more names that's joined our show. We've had Big Nasty join in. We've had Andy Pitts, which is one of the local fishermen that'll be in this tournament probably this coming weekend. 812 Catfish and Reeling and Chilling. Combat, let's say I done said Combat Carl, Sonny, Junior Proctor, Roger Dement's in the house tonight. We got quite a few. Scotty Hill's in the house. Yeah, I agree with that. Lyle, on kind of the only thing is that some states allow game fish as bait and some states don't. I guess you would have to leave space in all of that to make that adjustments.
Yeah. All state and federal laws have to be adhered to, no matter what the case is. So if there's a difference in some of that, people would have to make adjustments for that. But when you go to Mississippi River Monsters or Monsters on the Ohio or Winter Blues on Wheeler or the PK guys, one of the things that I've been telling these tournament directors for years and years, and I didn't have to tell Brian St. Alma and Skinny and them guys, is there needs to be a minimum on live well sizes, because a lot of these guys, they want to fish tournaments, and they need to have recirculation pumps, and they need to have water running in and out of them, either on a timer or all the time. There needs to be an organization that puts all this together. And I've been working on it for 3 or 4 years with a couple of guys, and it just, it's not there yet. And I've heard that other groups are working on something like that. But it doesn't matter who does it, as long as it's done correctly and they get it in place, because once you get it done, it'll just make it so much easier, not just for the fishermen, but for the tournament directors and everybody else too.
Agreed. And I noticed that a lot of that comes down to also how things are viewed by the public.
That is correct.
If, when we had that tournament the other week, which I love that tournament. I'm not a tournament fisherman, but it was just a fun tournament. That Grand Slam tournament, I loved it. We put out at really probably a bad time on the weekend because there was so many pleasure boaters. And while we was out there bobbing around, the pleasure boaters weaving in and out of the boats, getting down the lake, I heard some disgruntled comments about what all these tournament fishermen, even though we have a right to be on the lake just as much as they do, that still them negative comments can come back to bite us in the tail. So I think a lot of that has to come into how we are viewed, and whatever we can do to make that a lot more pleasurable for everybody all the way around is something that needs to be worked on. As far as blast off, when we come in to weigh in, you got 100 boats coming into one ramp for a weigh in. That can kind of put a lot of people in a small area. Chunky Cats is in the house. Go ahead.
Exactly right. But some places have boat ramps and parking areas big enough to justify that, and others do not. And I understand that. And at that time, you might want to have launch out of two different boat ramps or something, but they need to be released at the same time. James, one of the biggest things that burns me is this trailering up and down these roads. Guys say, oh, you got to have trailering. Well, that is why we end up with dead fish at the end of weigh-ins more than any other reason, because these guys are traveling an hour to 2.5 hours trailering one direction, and then all the way back they're not getting water exchange. They don't have oxygen on. They're sitting there getting beat to death on that trailer running 100 mile an hour up and down these interstates, and there really needs that needs to go from the fishing industry. The trailering of boats, it needs to be gone. I've pushed for this for years, and I contend that a lot of guys don't want to get up early in the morning and check live wells and do all the stuff that so many of the guys do. But you either want to make it a professional event or you don't. It's just that simple. And if you want to make it a professional event, then do it that way. And if you don't, then it's just going to be a mom and pop show, which is great. They're a ton of fun, but we have plenty of those.
Yes.
Catfishing's ready. Catfishing sport is ready for a professionally run tour.
Right.
And by that, I mean 2 people to a boat, no exceptions, no trailering, big entry fees. And I know that'll weed some of the guys out that probably think they should be there. But if you can't pay the price, then you can't enter. I mean, it's just that simple. But catfishing's ready for that. It's just finding the right person to put it together and make it happen. Stick to the rules.
Okay. Well, normally I don't talk a lot about tournament fishing on here, but I did want to get some of that out because we do have some great people in tournament great fishermen, period. And I think that a lot of guys that's on my show that are not tournament fishermen can actually learn a lot from people that do tournament fish or people that have tournament fish. I know you don't tournament fish nowhere near like you used to.
Nope.
And you carry a lot of knowledge in that head. And that's what I'd like to tap in a little bit into tonight.
Well, I'll be glad to help you. I will mention, though, James, that one of the things that people forget about is ask questions. I've been to a lot of them tournaments for a long, long time, and it's no different with me and Doc than it is with a Harold Dodd or a Jeff Dodd or the Massengills brothers. When you go up and visit with them boys, if you have a question, all you have to do is answer them. As long as you're not asking for a specific location to go catch a fish, they'll tell you what you're doing wrong or how to change what you're doing to make it better for you to be more successful in fishing. I've never seen anybody turn anybody down that's been doing this for any extended period of time. And Cindy and I spent hours talking with people at motels and weigh-ins and different things. And they said, well, How did you find those fish? Well, you got to have the best electronics you can afford, and you spend the time on the water and look for them. And a lot of times we'll fish electronic fish for 2 days, but pre-fish in a tournament and never bait a hook,
Right.
because to catch them, you first got to find them. And if you're finding fish and they're not winning fish, it does you no good. Now, if you're a fun fisherman, if you learn to run your electronics and believe in it like I do mine, you could go out and find you a bunch of eating size fish, and you can just catch them all day long. And once you learn them electronics, they'll tell you whether you want to fish them fish or not.
Maurice, I appreciate you coming in, buddy. I don't know the circumstances why you going to the hospital. I hope everything's okay. Yeah, watch it later. I'm sure we're going to entertain, but we thank you for coming in there, Maurice. Appreciate it. We got Justin Fish and Fetish in here. Dana McGill's in here. Carolina Cat Daddy's in here. We got a lot of people in here. Glenn's in the house. And guys, only thing, I guess, when you said to make the money, one of the issues, Lyle, is that they are a lot of guys that would love to fish these tournaments that are not big money guys.
Right.
And you said it probably will weed some of them out. I mean,
if they want the big payouts, a high percentage of that comes from entry fee money.
Right,
so,
right. I understand that.
If you can't do that, there's tons and tons of mom and pop tournaments all over the place that doesn't have high entry fees.
Right,
but,
right.
Everybody wants to be a professional fisherman. And if you look up the definition of professional, it's somebody that makes their living doing something. And
exactly.
other than a few guides throughout the United States, or maybe Dieter makes enough money off his YouTube videos, but hardly anybody makes a living catfishing. Like I say, some of the guides do, and maybe some of the guys that's doing videos or shows, but very few people actually make a living off of catfishing. And I think probably 90% of us started out fishing with our dads, our grandfathers, or uncles, or brothers, or something, and we enjoy doing it and done it for fun. The competition is something that come way later in your career.
Right. Roger DeMint, what's the best way to attack new water you've never seen?
For me, the best thing to do is to leave all the fishing rods in your truck or at home and take off and get your electronics. First thing I do when I go out on a strange body of water is I check the settings to make sure I can get the best image on my depth finder I can get. We run a Helix 12 Mega, and I'll check the contrast and the clarity and all the settings and get it done. And then I've already looked on Google Earth or Navionics mapping, and I'll have spots marked where I want to go. And I'll check all those places out. And if they don't pan out or I don't find what I want, then I'll start doing it old school. And I'll look for creek inlets and drop-offs and ledges, rock bluffs, stuff like that I know normally attract fish. And I'll go until I find what I consider winning fish. And we'll try to catch those. If they don't work out, we'll have an A, B, C, and D. We have 4 places we're going to go. And that usually will take care of about 8 hours of tournament fishing.
Right. And guys, I'm going to tell you, probably one of the best things that can help any of y'all out, that includes bank fishermen or boat fishermen, is to download the Navionics app to your phone, to a tablet. You don't have to actually put it on your depth finder. If you don't have the money to get a chip, it's cheaper to get it on your phone, your Navionics. You can go on there, basically do the same thing, mark your spots, and that way you can actually put a lot of homework in before you ever put foot on the water.
Well, you're eliminating a lot of water, non-productive water that way, and you're doing it before you ever get there. It just makes sense to do it. And it's the same way with the guy that just goes out and fishes on the weekend. He's worked 5 days. He's maybe got 1 or possibly 2 days of his week to find fish. And if he does his research before he leaves the house, chances are good that you will have some place marked that will hold quality fish if you learn to know what you're looking for.
Yes, sir. And Junior Proctor said smaller clubs is where you learn to fish tournaments. to learn by asking questions, to learn before going, to fish bigger tournaments, to have the confidence to do so. Agreed 100%, Junior.
I agree. Absolutely. That's a great analogy. And, Doc and I've talked about this a number of times. Cindy and I've talked about it because when we run Twisted Cats for those 9 or 10 years, she was a big part of that. She took care of all the paperwork and all the stuff and figured payouts and all that. And I'd check live wells and different things. And it is really hard to do all that stuff unless you got people that want to be in the tournament to start with. And one of the funniest things that I can think of is there's more divorces between catfishing teams than there are any other couples in the world. They may fish together for 10 years and get along fine, and boom, all of a sudden they can't fish together anymore. I've seen that happen over and over. I find it quite interesting, and both of them are usually good guys, and later they might come back and fish together some more, but a lot of teams are divorced over how they think they should fish a catfish tournament.
Well, good and well, Lyle, that Cindy's going to tell you where to catch and fish at.
And I'm going right where she says to go.
There you go.
Yeah, buddy. Hey, James,
I'm gonna tell you, yes, sir.
If people would share this video to their Facebook page, maybe we get a few more listeners in here.
Well, I think we got quite a few, but I would love for them to share it.
Heck yeah, man.
Dieter Melhorn said, y'all all need to start watching more of the buy video so he can make a living catfishing.
Dieter's a hoot, man.
Yeah, he's a good old guy. I talked to him today on the phone. He's out there on the water, and I seen he posted up. He didn't do too good today. The bite has changed real quick on us. It was hot the other day. Matthew Anthony, he ain't in here tonight, but he was on fire, and now that same spot is devoid of fish. What do you think? Do you think that hurricane coming up the East Coast and the severe drop in the barometer pressure, what do you think that it's going to do to, say, for them for the tournament Saturday night?
It's
probably going to hit the East Coast right around North Carolina, which is our coast is about 215 to 230 miles from here by the road, which is probably, I'd say, 160 miles by the way the crow flies. It's going to supposedly it's going to clip the edge of the North Carolina. So that means it's going to drop our barometer pressure pretty hard here.
And normally, if I'm on fish, say today's Wednesday, if we're pre-fishing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and we found fish that we plan on fishing, and a front moves through like it does so many times when on Saturday or Friday night and late Saturday, the fish normally go deep and they move. Now they may not move from along a ledge where it's 20 foot. They may just move out in the deeper water, but they almost always go deeper. And if they got to go up and down that river channel to get deeper, they'll do that. But normally they don't go too far. The further down, in the deeper the water, the less pressure affects them. So that's why they change and go deep. But man, Chuck Davis used to tell me every tournament he goes to, there's a front moves through, and it happens a lot. It really does. And we've tried fishing the same areas. We went shallow. We fished in between, and when it goes deep, the deepest, if I find a fish in my A spot or 2 or 3 fish that I plan on trying to catch, and they're not there when I go there Saturday morning, I go to the deepest hole I can find, as close as I can find to that spot, and normally I'll find some good fish there. Now, whether the same ones or not, I don't know, but that's what we do, and it has been successful for us over the years. But they want to get away from the pressure, and the pressure, the closer to the top it is, the more pressure affects the fish.
Mid-South Outdoors is in here tonight. They also are pulling our lakes down also. So you've got dropping water, dropping barometer pressure. So these guys Saturday might have their hands full.
Well, dropping water is another thing that I learned from an older gentleman years ago, and he contends, and I agree with him 100%, that if the water's dropping, you want to get out in whether it's a lake or a river, doesn't matter. There's a chance. Usually, if you're in a lake, there's a river channel that runs through it and get out in that channel because they'll be down on the bottom.
Right.
And that's, you know, if you're on the river, just go out in the main channel and you'll probably find those fish.
Twerking Monkey, Mark Turner, PD Fisherman. Hello, guys. Appreciate y'all coming in the house. I think I said something to Twerking Monkey a little while ago, but want to make sure I cover the bases. Joe Buck's in the house. Irvin. Guys, we thank you for coming in. How about showing me how many people we got in chat tonight? Please, guys, give me the number. 38. Appreciate that, Avid.
Nice.
Now, I know you fish rivers and you fish lakes. What was your preference?
My preference has always been river fish. We grew up 11 miles off the Mississippi River in North Missouri, and my favorite place to fish on any river system is below a dam. I love dam fishing. It's the biggest piece of structure in the river, and that's where I usually find bigger fish. There's usually water coming through them at some point across the dam, which makes oxygen, and the fish will go up there because the bait fish are up there. And once you find them, you might not stick on them right off the bat, but if you stick with it, you'll eventually catch those fish. And my biggest flathead and blue both come from below dams on the Mississippi River.
On the river itself.
Yep. Now, I love fishing at Lake the Ozarks, James. It's not too far from us, from where we live now, and I can go up there and drop a couple of planer boards in the water. We can troll around with that trolling motor, and we can just catch them fish one right after the other. But river fishing is my favorite thing to fish.
So you really like the bumping part of river fishing?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But I use planer boards on the river, too, and people say you can't do it, but I do.
While anchored?
You can do it when you're anchored. You can back bottom bounce and have a planer board off each side. The current is so much faster than your boat is going backward. You just take them boards right on out the sides for you.
There you go.
A lot of guys don't believe it or they can't make it happen, but we do it all the time. We really do now. But if you're anchor fishing, that's a great way to keep from all your lines going right back together behind your boat, which if our river's got a lot of heavy current, and that's what usually happens. Then when you get one, you're all tangled up. If you use them boards, because I don't put them out 200 or 300 feet off the side like a lot of guys do. I like to have two out the back and then two off of the corners and run them out about 25 foot and then a 35 or 50 foot on the outside boards. There's no need to spread them out any further than that. It concentrates your scent trail a lot better.
Well, I question why you do that. Do you not ever put any down lines straight down like Steve Douglas does a lot of while you got all the rest of it out?
Sometimes, one of the funniest stories that I'm aware of is Doc and Cindy and I was pre-fishing for Mississippi River monsters 2 years ago. And that's what she was doing. She was just holding it off the side of the boat in a rod holder, and she let it hit the bottom, reeled up a couple of cranks, and because we was bumping, and three people bumping out of a boat's kind of tough to do. Right. And she got smacked, and I mean, it took her down. It was peel and drag, and she's fighting it, getting it out of the rod holder, and
it's tough to get out of that rod holder when that happens, buddy.
It is, man. And here comes Bill Dance and Jeff Dodd and John Warden, and they was just all over me. And Doc was sitting back there laughing because old Dodd says, "Man, help that girl, go chase that fish." And couldn't tell him that it was caught right underneath the boat, Right. And all she had to do was get it up. But I don't know, it's 35, 40-pound fish, and they stood there and visited with us a little bit. And he said, "I'm going to tell you right now, next time she gets one like that, you take that boat to her." And I was still sitting there thinking, buddy, I can't tell you that it was caught right below the boat, But yeah, they got on me pretty hard.
When that old catfish jerks that rod straight down, he puts a lot of torque on that stand. You better have a good stand. You better have it bolted down good or welded to your daggum boat. And it takes a little bit of prying to get that rascal up and out of your stand.
It really does. I used to do I built handicap accessible vans. And and we put lifts in vans and steering controls that people run with their feet and joysticks so they could drive and all kinds of trick stuff. And when they'd send them um, lifts up that you installed in vehicles, they come with these great big old washers. And they're, I don't know, 3/16 thick and I don't know, 2-3 inches in diameter. And some of them are hex shaped and they got a whole bunch of holes so they'd fit different things. And that's what I use underneath all my rod holder mounts.
Boom.
And it covers a big area. It doesn't matter if you have a wood insert deal on your gunnel or if it's metal. It'll keep them from bending and changing shapes and different things. The bigger the washer you can use and the thicker, the better off you can do. And when I didn't have stuff like that, I'd cut me out a piece of 3/16 steel and make a washer. And it didn't have to be square around. Doesn't make any difference. But anything to spread that pressure out will prevent you from having destruction.
All right, we got Team Wampus Cat. Justin's in the house. Team Keeping It Real, Richard. Mark, I only caught 2 the other day, lost 1 good one. The bite was a little tough, but, that was better than getting a skunk in the boat. Somebody asked a question. Sorry about this, Lyle. Somebody asked a question. Walking baits on the dikes is a great way to find active fish, Sonny Parker. Suspended junior partner suspend with boards on the river. Do you ever suspend your baits under the boards or do you drag them behind the boards on out?
I do both.
Okay.
On Lake of the Ozarks, we usually have one set up. Again, you got 2, we're dragging behind the boat. They just have dragging weights on them, and then one's off the corners. Either that particular bait or the one that's off even further out will suspend up off of the bottom. We want to stagger them so they're not all the same water depth and they're not all the same distance from the boat.
Right.
Now, Cindy, she likes suspending bait. I like dragging it, and the further away from the boat it is, the better I like it to a certain point. And that's because all the noise and all the stuff going on around the boat is further away from you. And I think once a boat passes, a lot of times fish will move in behind you. And that's how I like to do mine dragging. But Cindy likes her suspend off the bottom. She's very successful at it. I don't argue with it. When she catches bigger fish than me, I can't say nothing.
Do you ever float baits using bobbers?
I do, not as much as I used to, but yes, I do.
Okay. Well, that's because I'm getting ready to come out with some bobbers, and I like to send you some to let you try it out and give me your 2 cents on there.
I really like doing that if I happen to be night fishing.
Right.
I really like the big bobbers when I'm night fishing. Put a whisker stick in it or some other kind of LED light or something. The improvements on these things are so good now. They keep your battery life up for hours and hours on end, and they withstand water really good, and you can see them for long distances. And my theory is it doesn't matter what's on top of that bobber because the fish are not going to see through it to see the light on top and wonder what it is. They're just going to go about their business. And for bobber fishing, especially if I'm around a brushy area where I can go after some flatheads, I think that's a great way to catch flatheads is next to a brush pile or a root ball, something like that.
Right. I went out with Richard one night and I took my couple of my prototypes with me. So he got to see them in action and we anchored way above a brush pile. And I set that bobber to where that big brim was swimming just right over the tops of that brush pile. We didn't get a hit that night, but it ain't for the lack of that brim trying because he swam. I bet he swam back and forth 50 yards, back and forth across the top because we had current that night. So the current was keeping that bobber at the same length, but all he could do was go back and forth. And he was a good half-pound brim.
Oh, baby.
So we were just waiting on that daggone prototype to disappear, but we never did get to see it. So we tried. Bobbers are great for brush piles, for flatheads, Sonny Parker.
Yep. That's correct. They're fun to watch. And if you happen to be taking a child an inexperienced fisherman, they enjoy that bobber fishing more than they do the other stuff because they can actually see something's taking place.
Yes, yes.
Whether it be for catching bluegill or whatever. But we've taken our grandson on all night fishing tournaments, and he'd stay up to 2 o'clock in the morning if the fish was biting. They enjoy that as long as something's happening. But when it slows down, they doze off, and that's okay. You've got them to start. And now, instead of saying, let's go fishing, he's coming up to us and saying, hey, when are we going fishing?
Where we going? When we going?
That's right. I want to catch some more fish. And we take them up to the lake because 30 and 40, 50 fish days up there is not uncommon a lot of times.
Right.
But I want them to learn how to do the stuff that we're able to do now in this great country you live in, because you never know, at some point it may not be that way.
Yes, sir. Well, I'm going to tell you, I think you said it the other week. If you do not get excited by seeing just that little bitty bobber down there while you brim fishing, all of a sudden take off, if that don't still excite you, even though you chase monster cats, if that little bobber and that little bitty brim don't excite you, you need to sell your rod and reels and take up another hobby.
No, I think you're right about that. And I've learned over the years that other than throwing a cast net, catching the bait's nearly as much fun as fishing for cats. We used to go on them skippy trips and we'd bring back 300, 400, 500 skipjacks, stay down there 3 or 4 days and vacuum seal them, freeze them, bring them up back home. And now we haven't done that in a few years, but we used to do it every year over the January 1 holiday weekend. A bunch of us would meet up down at Cumberland City, and we'd have a blast doing that. And we'd have a big dinner, and everybody'd stay at the motels, and we'd all go out and flood their restaurants, and they was glad to see us. It was a great time. And I'm going to tell you right now, if bass fishermen was ever in there when them skipjack is on fire below them dams or in them hot water discharges and catching 2, 3, 4, up to 6 of them at a time, the bass tournament fishing, as we know, would be gone, because there ain't no bass could keep up with 2 or 3 of them skipjacks going each direction when you're reeling them up. They are a blast to catch.
And see, we have the white perch down here. I don't know if y'all have white perch up there. And
we don't have the same type white perch you do, I don't believe.
This looks like a little bitty small. To me, it favors a white bass and a striper. They actually look like baby stripers to me. They're actually more kin to, I think, to a striper. I don't know. Dieter can straighten me out on that. But we use them 6-hook sabiki rigs, and if you catch them schooled up, your screen actually will look like spaghetti. These fish move so fast in the bottom down there that your screen looks like a mess of spaghetti. And you can drop down and that gonna be snatching 6 at a time, left and right, left and right. Some people can. Now I can if I can find them. Me and that fish don't get along too good, buddy.
Well, I thought Jeff Manning was supposed to teach you how to do that.
Well, and Lyle, what's crazy is that now I can actually see Chad over here. I don't know what was the holdup earlier. What was crazy is that there's been a couple of days that I've talked to Jeff, I talked to Matthew, I talked to Dieter, I talked to all these guys, and they told me different places to go. And I went to every one of them places, and they wasn't a fish to be found. But the day before, they slaughtered them.
So, a lot of times, just being there at the right time makes all the difference in the world.
Yes. And the pontoon that I fished off of, the one me and the wife actually use, is slow. It's got a little 40 horse on there. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm building that one. It's got the 150. And that boat's going to move me up and down the water. I know that I'm going to hate the gas mileage, Joe, the change in the gas mileage. But,
yeah, probably so.
What was Cass said? He's cursed like I am when it comes to that perch.
I enjoy bait fishing.
Oh, yeah. And, I'm going to tell you, that perch, if you could take kids out when you can get on those little old white perch, and them kids drop down a 2-hook rig, a 3-hook rig, or a sabiki. Sabikis might be tough with kids because you got so many hooks and they do get tangled up. But to see the smile on kids' face, or even on my face when you snatch 6 up, I've been tempted to tie 2 sabiki rigs together and just see how many fish I could catch at one time.
Oh man,
Just as a challenge.
that would be fun. I mean, like I say, they don't none of them go the same direction, so you're in for a
No.
fight. We've caught some skipjack at Cumberland City before that was over 3 pounds, right at 4 pounds actually. They was giants, and I was at the truck one year, vacuum sealing them and putting them down, and Doc come up there and he said, "This is years ago." He said that's probably a new state record skipjack, and we weighed it. It was just shy of 4 pounds. He said, realistically, he said that thing is about 3 ounces over the state record. I said, well, I ain't unsealing it and taking it out of here to check it in. I said, he'll work for bait just like the rest of them did. He did. But, we go down every year and do that. And it was a ton of fun. I'd like to see a bunch of guys start doing that again because we did have such a great time. Some boys from Wisconsin come down one year and bought a bunch of cheese they stopped to get at the cheese places up there and all kinds of lunch meat. Cindy'd pick up a big old pot of chili, and oh man, we just have a blast.
My cousin Brandon Wiston's in the house tonight. Don't get to see Brandon too much. He usually works late. He runs a heating and air place, so he's usually working, how they work, especially this time of year.
Yes, sir.
All around. Now, lake fishing. How do you approach a lake different than what you would approach a river?
Well, I still look for basically the same type of structure, but I like to fish creek inlets where it dumps into a main body of water above and below them both. I think that's a great thing, or even go up in the creeks and turn around and come back. In the wintertime, I usually am anchor fishing on a lake, but spring, fall, summer, I'm dragging baits. That's how we do it. And a lot of times I'm using planer boards. The only thing, and I think you can still catch them. We've caught them pulling planer boards when it was really cold out, but you do have to downsize your bait, and you do have to slow way down.
Yep, slow down. I think in the wintertime when I'm dragging baits, I don't go over 0.2. Just let them creep along.
Well, when you're in the big lakes, take Wheeler Lake, for example. If you're down there fishing and you're dragging baits like most of the people do, and you're going 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, and you're not getting any bites, try speeding it up to 0.6 to 8.
Right.
Them fish are used to chasing them baits when they go normal speed, and most of them can swim faster than we understand. And if I'm not getting beat, if I'm not getting bit, I'll start varying the speed of my drag up, down, until I find some fish that'll work. And then I try to put that in my memory bank, how fast I was going, because they, if they're used to going after them and they've been in heavy current, say they've had run current through that lake, and all of a sudden they shut it off. Well, them fish have been chasing bait for 2 or 3 days or longer. And you're going real slow. If you'll just speed up a little bit, a lot of times it'll trigger a bit. And another thing is, if you're making a turn, when you make that turn, you're changing directions, and boom, you'll get smacked a lot of times.
And you need to pay attention if it was on the inside rod or the outside rod. The outside rod, if they hit it, then you need to speed your boat up a little bit.
Right.
If they hit the
100%.
inside rod, you need to slow down just a little bit.
That's exactly right.
Dieter said he's back in the house. He was doing a podcast. He wants to get you in on a podcast one day.
Absolutely, Dieter. I'll do anything for you just about within reason. I might draw the line on some stuff, but I'll be glad to do a cast with you.
Tell Cindy in the background. I know she's back there in the background. We all said hello.
Well, she was watching it, but she had to get over to the pharmacy. I had a doctor's appointment day, and they gave me some new medicine, and they just got the prescription done. So she run over there right quick, but she'll be back in it. But I'll be sure to tell her she won't be too far for too long.
Is that some of that anti-aging medicine?
Well, they didn't say that, but I kind of hoping it is.
Now, you use all your rods or the rods that you make yourself. Is that what you fish with?
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct, and a lot high percentage of the ones we use are for years and years. I've had guys send me blanks at different companies that want me to test them. Some of them I look at them and I don't even build on, waste my time on. Others I build and don't like, and I give them to somebody else to see if they like. But I don't get as much of that as I used to. But we have switched over to all of our rods, whether they be bumping rods or anchor rods or drifting rods. They are now graphite composites with a high percent of carbon in them. And I really like these blanks. I have them special built for me, and I know guys are sending them overseas and trying to have them copied so they can make their bumping rods and stuff out of them, because the companies over there send me pictures of them, and they couldn't have got them any other way unless they sent over to them, you know.
There you go.
But this guy makes them to me for me. We was several years getting this blank design with the exact, and I'm not a chemist, so I don't know, but I would tell him that we need to drop a little bit of the percentage of graphite in it, or add to it, or more glass, or whatever, because it either was too stiff, or it wasn't stiff enough, or it didn't have enough backbone, and we need to change the thickness of it back there. And you go by just tons of stuff, and we finally struck a graphite is measured in million modulus of graphite, and that's the compound that goes in it. And we finally ended up with some with 55 million modulus of graphite. And so far, we've been very fortunate. We don't have breakage unless somebody steps on them, or shuts a car door on them or stuff.
Right.
But they work out really good, and I can do them in a normal bumping rod that we use on the Mississippi or the Missouri River, or I can do a lighter weight one. But the biggest fish so far that I'm aware of has been caught on one of my bumping rods was the 105-pounder that Justin Wolf and Matt Marshall caught down there in St. Louis here a couple years ago.
Dang right. Roger Dement said wife was watching Jeopardy. He said he don't know what the question was, but the answer was skipjack. Sonny Parker said that you make the best bumping rods.
Well, thank you, Sonny.
Now, I've never used a bumping rod, so I'm really ignorant to what I'm getting ready to ask. Is that a more heavier action rod than, say, your typical medium to heavy action regular rods?
Well, yes, to be quite honest, because you're sitting there. A lot of times you're bouncing behind the boat anywhere from 30 or 40 feet to 300 or 400 feet behind you, and if it's not pretty stiff on the end, every time you go to raise it up, your rod bends so far that you have to raise it up so much to get it to move that sinker off the bottom. And a lot of times, unless the current's really hot, I'm only using 2 ounces of weight, sometimes less than that, sometimes a little more. But the last couple of years at Memphis, we was using anywhere from 4 to 8, and at one time 16, but we was in 9-mile-an-hour current at that time. And a lot of people, they can't fathom 9-mile-an-hour current, but earlier this year it was 13 in places. So,
dang right.
But yeah, we get that out there, and what you want to do is the cannonball sinkers at right now, that's the hottest item for bumping. They have a bigger footprint when it hits the bottom, and you can feel it. And most of mine are usually 2, 3, or 4 ounce, and you just bump it and you just raise it up and let it further. The further out you get, the less distance it goes every time. And that when you get out there past 100 feet or so, you can really, once you learn to feel that bottom, every time it hits, every time you raise it up, it's only going to move 6 inches maybe. And that's when you're really doing some good. It is bound, just keep raising it up like that and bouncing it down through there. It doesn't do as much when you're raising it way up, because then it's skipping 2 or 3 feet because the current's taking it so far. The current's still fast.
Gotcha.
And it'll move it so much further, and that doesn't do you as much good because you'll skip it right over top of fish.
Justin Fishing Fetish, why are you giving up catfishing for a month? Let's see. Bumping sounds like a little bit of work, Dieter Melhorn said.
It is, Dieter, but I promise you, if you're ever bumping in a river, And like Doc had happened to him when we was in Memphis 2 or 3 years ago, I had built a new rod, and it was a prototype on a blank that we had been working on. And he was bumping down through there, and one grabbed his hook. It jerked the rod out of his hand and went flying off the back deck. And old Doc, he looked like a hermit crab going across that boat. And he caught it by the butt of the rod just as it went in the water. And he got it back up in there. I don't remember if he caught the fish or not, but it seems to me like he did, but I may be wrong about that. But he got the rod in, and he turned around and looked at me, and his face was red. And he says, "I guess you ain't never getting this one back." I said, "Yeah, I kind of figured that."
Yeah.
As far as I know, he's still using it today.
Please tell me there was a video camera running when he done that.
Sure wasn't. But it was
Man.
funny. It was hilarious, man. We was in some hot current too, and we'd been marking these giant fish down there. And the marks of the fish that we was in was an inch longer than anywhere we'd been all day. And we was just wanting to get one to see how big it, those was, because there's several in there that size. And I don't think he got that in. Best I remember, we never did catch them fish. That was as close to catching one of them as we got. But yeah, we had a blast. And you guys, Doc is really having a great time right now, running around fishing with everybody in their boats and going these different places. And if you ever get a chance to fish with Doc, just don't turn it down. He's a wealth of information and so much fun. It's unbelievable.
I'd love to get him down here in the Carolinas, maybe jump on the boat with Dieter or me, any of these Carolina boys down here on some of our lakes. I'm sure he would love Lake Wiley. I know he likes rivers too, but I think he also enjoys lakes also.
He does, and he is. Doc is for most tournament guys are in our area are not big flathead guys. Doc loves to catch flatheads, and he's one of the best channel cat fishermen I've ever seen.
I'd like to get him on here one night. You'll have to help him talk him up. I don't get to see him in chat on my show. I'm sure he's busy. We've got stuff with the grandkids. and I'm glad that he's keeping himself busy, Lyle. I really do. And I know you, as a good friend of his, love seeing him staying busy.
I do. And he's really he's doing wonderful. And I talk to him about every day. Now, I haven't talked to him yet today, but I talk to him about every day. And he's always going to watching these kids play football and basketball and volleyball. One of his granddaughters had an accident. She backed into something. They had to repair her car, and he'd go over in the morning to pick her up, take her to work or school or whatever it was. And he's enjoying life, and I'm so happy for him. And he's handling things very well. But like I say, if you ever get a chance to get in a boat with him, I don't know anybody that hasn't learned from Doc. He's just been doing it a long time, and he's been very successful. And he's so much fun. You'll crack up. I mean, he keeps you in stitches all the time.
And plus, he's a wealth of knowledge. And like you said, he loves the flatheads. And we got a lot of guys in here, Team Keeping It Real, Team Wampus Cat. These two guys are great friends of mine, and they would rather chase a flathead than anything.
Oh, I love flathead fishing.
Oh, yeah.
I really do.
They to me, they're a great challenge. And I talked to you about a technique that I'm wanting to try. I'm working. Richard's getting ready to get him a new trolling motor, and I'm going to get his old trolling motor, but it actually has a remote to it, which is new to me. So I've got to really learn how to maneuver that thing, because I'm wanting to start pitching the jig for flatheads. I'm wanting to try it now. It might not work worth the crap. I might end up cussing it and losing lines and hooks and everything else. But until I throw, I will not know.
Well, that's exactly right. And I think I told you when we had this conversation that a guy I used to know that was a guide on the Tennessee River, he used to claim in the spring of the year he caught more flatheads on spinner baits with cut bait trailers on them than most people realized. And I've never tried that. And for one reason was I never found a spinner bait big enough that I thought would hold a flathead. Most of the hooks on them are not made to catch 60-pound fish.
Well, the light wire that they made out of.
Yeah.
That's The light wire would be what I'd worry more about than the hook. But
Yeah.
But now the jig heads, that's a different story.
Yes, sir.
You can make jig heads yourself. That's with whatever hook that you choose. I like a longer shank hook because you want to be able to put a big cut piece of bait on there.
That's right.
But now coming back to your bumping, how do you hook your baits up when you're bumping, and how do you tie up your rig?
I have started using a 3-way. I wish I'd have known you was going to ask me that. I'd had some of that stuff ready. I like a 3-way. That's all right. A 3-way swivel with a dropper down for the for your sinker,
right,
and run it straight through the other part of your 3-way, and run your bait back behind there. Cindy uses circle hooks when she's bumping, and when the fish loads up on it, she just reels in. Now, me, I like to use a Gamakatsu Big River number 9 or 10/0, and when they take that down, I try to pull their teeth right out with it.
There you go.
That I love setting the hook on fish. I don't do it when we're anchored or when we're free drifting or suspend drifting, but when I'm bumping, I'll have one of them on there, and that hook is so heavy duty. I've never bent one, rarely dull one, to be quite honest with you. And you can just lay it on them. Just, lay it on them.
I love circle hooks, Lyle, but I'm going to tell you, I do miss setting that hook on a fish.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. James, I'll tell you, we had circle hooks, and I had hundreds of rigs tied up of every size and shape and form. And we'd go fishing, and I'd miss 2 or 3 fish. I'd take it off, and I'd put a J hook on. And this went on for 2 or 3 years. And finally, I told Cindy, I said, we are never going to learn how to use these if we don't quit using the J hooks. So we took all the J hooks off the boat. And when you haven't got anything else to use, you'll learn to use them. But I do miss that, but I get that back from the bumping. And there's not too many of us that actually use a J hook for bumping. Most of them use a circle hook. But when the excitement hits and that fish is trying to take what they're trying to run off with your rod, period, and you're trying to keep them from getting it. So when they hit that and they take off with it, just stretch him out.
You're daggum right. Roger said braid for your dropper, said it makes it more sensitive.
It does. And braid is way more sensitive than mono. The only thing that I use mono for on a bumping rig is for the leader that goes from the 3-way swivel back to the bait.
Chunky Cat said circle or J hook, he always ends up setting the hook.
Oh, in that case, I would think that you would want a one of them ones that have some forgiving in them. I don't remember what they call them now, but
that hybrid hook is kind of
Team Catfish Team Catfish has one. James Arwood has one. You're supposed to be able to set the hook or reel down on them, either one. They claim that is the way that a Kahle hook works, but I've never reeled down on a Kahle hook and seen them set. I always just give her a yank, and I used those for years. I love a Kahle hook.
I love floating a big old brim underneath the daggum bobber with a Kahle hook on it. I love them. The Mad Catter hook is
Mad Catters. Yep, that's exactly right.
Yeah, I mean, you can still set the hook so much with the circle hook if you allow that rod to go ahead and load up before you ever do the yanking part of it.
Well, it's hard when you're used to giving them a big old jerk, but if you just make a slow sweep with that, it'll do the same thing as reeling down on it. But man, if I'm slow sweeping, it's going to be one of these.
Kentucky Catman said the Reaper 7 to 10/0. So one of them's the hybrid hook, ain't it?
And I think the Mad Catter is, I believe.
Okay.
I'm not 100% on that, but I believe Roger was right about that. I believe it's the Mad Catter.
Yeah, Sonny Parker said J hooks and swing for the fences.
That's right, baby. I found, James, I had the privilege. Cindy and I fished a tournament in the wintertime last December with Sonny Parker, another outstanding guy to be in a boat with. We had such a good time. We didn't do any good in the tournament, but it was so cold out there, and I didn't have the side curtains on our boat, just the top, and we absolutely had a ball. We had a heater running part of the time, I think, and Sonny was a lot of fun to fish with, and we're going to try to do some more fishing together. It's just a lot of fun.
What that Dieter said? Said
I agree with that, Dieter.
Yep, you're 100%. Yep,
yep. And
go ahead.
There's several guys that make different type of hooks, circle hooks, and there's some of them that when it makes the curve up there, it's at an angle going back to the shank, and others go straight across. And my success rate with the ones that go straight across, like the L197 Eagle Claws, are way better than the ones that are at an angle, except on the bigger hooks. On the 10-aughts and stuff like that, I like the ones that go at an angle, more of a 45 instead of a 90. I like those better on bigger hooks. But on smaller hooks, if we're channel cat fishing, I'll use a 6 and 7-aughts, and I like them L197s. Man, they'll drill them.
There you go. There you go. What time is it, Lyle? It's almost 9 o'clock.
Getting close.
Yes, sir. Well, I've enjoyed having you in here tonight, Lyle, and I hope we'll do this again.
I got to tell you, it's a little different being on this side of it instead of asking the questions. You know what I mean? But I knew we'd have a great time. I always do have a great time visiting with you, and I enjoy your show so much. There's guys that do shows that are fun to watch, and there's guys that do shows you watch them just because you're watching them. But you have a great bunch of viewers that watch your show. They're very loyal to you. They're there every week. Myself, I try to be one of them, and I'm so glad that you're doing it the way you're doing it, and I appreciate you asking me to come on with you.
Well, Lyle, I enjoyed it, and is there anything else you think we might need to cover that give these guys a little more information?
Support our military and vote for Donald Trump.
There you go. All right. Let's see. Dieter said the best show yet. I don't know, Dieter. When you come flying in on my private helicopter, it was a pretty good show.
That was pretty good. That was pretty good. But thank you, Dieter.
Yeah. I've had a good show with just about everybody in here. And Lyle, that's something I'll always do is that I don't care if you got 2 subscribers or if you got 1 million subscribers. You're the same in my book, and I want everybody to be treated the same and give everybody the exact same respect that we all deserve.
That's right.
And that's, guys, let's make sure when we go out on the waters that we pick up behind ourselves. And I know it's aggravating that we end up having to pick up behind somebody else, but let's leave the old Boy Scout oath and leave it better than what we find it.
That's right.
Put old glory on your boat, guys. Let's help me bring patriotism back to this country. And we'll start with the catfishing guys. I don't care if you're fishing off the bank. Got that old military guy that fished in our tournament, Lyle. He's a bank fisherman. We put him on the boat with Jeff Manning. He fishes every day just about down there off the bank. He's done put about 450s off the bank down there.
That's pretty good.
And I got to replace his old American flag. He's done wore it out. It's time for me to bring him a new flag. But ever since I give him that flag, the first time I met him, I give him a flag, and he puts it right there with his stands, and he flies it.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
But guys, let's don't forget everybody that's going to be affected by these hurricanes and all the people that have been affected. The Bahamas is destroyed. That's pitiful. There's a lot of poor people in the Bahama Islands. I think these big old party boats and stuff that take advantage of the poor people out there on the Bahama Islands, or to load them boats up, take them down there, put all them people on there, and take care of them until the place is rebuilt.
It's going to be a while. Yeah, I agree. But some of them boys are in some dire hurt down there in the Bahamas, and it's not done yet over your way, but it's come way down, and I think the U.S. coast will be spared compared to what it looked like in the beginning, and I'm glad for that, because there were 3 or 4 days in there. My old buddy Glenn with rig wrap, it was supposedly going to hit him head on. I was very concerned about him, and but it missed him pretty much. So
yeah, see, my son and daughter-in-law and my grandbabies live down there in Florida too. They kind of right in the middle of Florida, and it was actually They was actually predicting for it to come straight across through their area, and Shane's actually in Raleigh right now, so the wife and the grandbabies is down there by themselves.
Oh,
Lucky
man.
her parents live about 10 minutes away, and I'm sure that they was going to go stay with them, so at least they was all going to be together.
Yeah.
But let's don't forget, fire, EMS, the linemen, the power company, the guys that's actually going down there are going to be these guys. If you don't keep up with what they do, they're walking through waist deep water, pulling power lines from pole to pole. They're actually putting their lives on the line every time they come in contact, because they don't know. They might not know somebody down the road might throw a switch somewhere and light them up.
Yeah, it could happen at any minute.
Exactly right. So
Sure
let's remember all these guys in our prayers, and always keep our veterans and our military in your prayers. Also, guys, they on our front line. With that being said,
don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yes, I keep forgetting to say that, Lyle. I just get caught up in enjoying everybody coming in. Kenny P's in the house. Buddy, I seen where you started your new chemo guy. I wish you all the luck in the world. And prayers. Bill of Rights is coming in. We're getting ready to say goodnight, Bill of Rights, but I appreciate you coming in. Lyle, God bless America, buddy. God bless you and your family.
Thank you so much for having me on here tonight, James. It's been a lot of fun. See everybody Monday on Catfish Weekly.
All right. Say goodnight, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
See you later. All right. Bye. See you. Oh, the broadcast is